Hello everyone, welcome to Desert Sage Podcast. I'm your host Greg Bedford, coming to you on the 22nd of May 2024 from beautiful Hualapai Mountains. We're actually staying up here at the resort. It's Wendy's birthday, and this is one of our favorite places to come. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes from our house, so we enjoy coming up here. It's beautiful. The wildlife up here is just incredible. There seems to be a real symbiotic relationship between the people that live up here and the elk, the deer. It's just a gorgeous place, and it is quite a bit cooler than our house this time of year. I know it's been a while since the last walk and talk. We've had a lot going on, Wendy and I have, and we only have a small window of opportunity to where the weather permits us to get outside and get things done. So we've been working to finish our garden project. That's coming along well. We have plants in the ground. We planted trees. We finished quite a bit of fencing over the winter and spring to keep the cattle out. Arizona's a fence out state, and we had quite a bit of problems with free range cattle coming onto our property, and so we had to fence off a couple acres of the interior to keep them out. And it turned out really nice, and there was a lot of work, a lot of money and a lot of work. And we enjoy getting out in the garden every day and watering the plants, and we talk to them, and because we believe that everything has consciousness. In varying different degrees, that everything has consciousness. So we talk to the trees, and we're positive and help. We believe it'll help promote their growth. So in any case, we've been busy. This is the last walk and talk I did, I think, was in October, our anniversary when we were up in the mountains. I talked about the conflict that's currently going on in the Middle East, and when I got back after that trip, I started getting in front of the Board of Supervisors again to remind them about their actions during COVID-19. And you can go back and view my videos of my appearances before the Board of Supervisors. But one of the last videos that I did, I talked about context, and I want to bring that up for a minute as well. One of the last supervisor meetings, I mentioned context, and it's important here. If you haven't seen any of my videos in the past, any of my walk and talks, any of my discussions on natural law, methods of manipulation, or you haven't seen any of my appearances before the Board of Supervisors or before Lake Havasu City Council when COVID-19 first started, you need to go back and look at those from the beginning. There are messages in there, in those videos. And it puts the things that I'm talking about in context. If you just come in and you start watching my videos now from this point, and you have no idea of what I'm going to say here, and what I've said in some of the previous videos, if you skip around and watch them, you're likely to have an emotional or an irrational reaction to the things that I say, because the things that I say cause that response in people. And it's because of your beliefs, your hardened beliefs, whether they're religious beliefs generally or political beliefs. So I'm asking that if this is your first time watching any of my videos, my walk and talks and whatnot, I encourage you to go to desertsagepodcast.com, my website. All my videos are posted up there in the media sections. 1, 2, and 3. There's drop-down menus, and you can watch all the videos. They're usually posted in sequence in which they're put up. So please go and do that. I have platforms on YouTube which are censored, which is something I'm going to be talking about today as well, censorship. But they have taken down my videos, and I've had several strikes as a result of my comments about COVID-19 and the vaccine and things of that nature. So I'm going to try to steer clear of that in this discussion, and focus on things like principles and why we find ourselves, our country, our national sovereignty and our individual sovereignty being whittled away every day. Our rights, First Amendment particularly, the most important ones, the most important amendment, the First Amendment, it's free speech, and it's the most important for a reason. Followed by the Second Amendment, to give us a right to protect those free speech rights, and to not to hunt. That isn't why we were given the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is to if we need to rise up against a government that has overstepped their authority. So I encourage you to go to those platforms. I have a Rumble channel as well, Desert Sage Podcasts, a Rumble channel, one on BitChute. So several platforms where you can go and watch my videos, but please go and watch from the beginning. If you are opposed to, if you're a closed-minded person, it's going to be very difficult for you to hear some of the things that I have to say and not have that emotional or irrational reaction. I encourage you to go find out whether or not the things that I'm saying is the truth or not. Don't believe anything that I'm saying. I've said that all along here. I don't expect you to. I expect you to go find out the truth on your own. But people have a tendency to not do that. So in any case, we'll be talking about that here as we go on. Again, as you know, I've spent some time in front of the Board of Supervisors, and I originally went there to address them over their actions with COVID-19, and particularly the two former law enforcement professionals that violated their oaths to the Constitution that they took. The Constitution is based on principles, the principles of natural law. We call it God's law. It's written into the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. You know, it's not based on man's law. It's based on moral law, universal, objective, moral law, which means that it applies in all places and at all times. It doesn't matter whether you're a congressman or a president or a king or a queen or a billionaire. It applies to everyone in all places and at all times. It is objective. You see, the problem is that, you know, people want to make it subjective, moral relativism. They want to make it fit their narrative, their own internal narratives, whether it's a religious narrative or a political narrative that is running in their mind. You know, it's their identity. You know, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a Christian, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim. You know, and they divide us using every one of those identities to keep us separate and conquered. And it works. You know, whether it's gender, you know, dividing us over gender, dividing us over this conflict in the Middle East, the conflict in Ukraine. Pick Team Coke or pick Team Pepsi. That's what they want. It's the Hegelian dialectic, and I've talked about this many times. But again, if you haven't watched any of my videos or listened to any of the things I've said in front of the Board of Supervisors, you'll have no context. For those of you that have been following along, thank you, first of all. It takes time and attention to watch these videos and to keep an open mind. And I greatly appreciate the feedback that I've been getting from people, friends, family, people I don't even know. A lot of it's over my appearances in front of the Board of Supervisors, and yes, there was a conflict that arose Again, I went up originally to address them over their actions, individual and collective actions over COVID-19, and there was a resolution that I objected to that was proposed by the chair, Hildy Angus, and it was in support of Israel. And this was in January. And in October, I told you, the last walk and talk, what they were trying to do was divide. And they don't care about either side and how many Palestinians or how many Jews or Israelis die in the process. They do not care. This is above that. So I objected to it, and I got a pretty visceral response from her. I did not know that she was a Jew prior to going up there, and she used the term Jew, which again, you have to put these terms in context. What is a Jew? Do you understand the difference between Ashkenazi Jews, between Sephardic and the dark-skinned Jews? The Palestinians, some of the Palestinians, the African Jews. Most of them have been discriminated against from the very beginning. Do you know the difference between the light-skinned Ashkenazi European Jews, the ones that primarily have been, occupying Israel, Tel Aviv for the most part? Do you understand that some of their ancestors never set foot in the Middle East? These people are white-skinned European Jews, Ashkenazi. And do you understand anything about the Balfour Declaration and how Israel was formed after World War II? If you don't have any historical context to this current conflict, you don't want to know the truth. And if you don't want to know the truth, either because it doesn't fit your religious or political narrative, you cannot claim to be a good moral person. Don't make that claim. Don't make that claim. Go and find out whether the things that I'm saying is the truth or not. And if it is the truth, the things that are happening over in Israel, whether you take Team Israel or Team Palestine, they're both committed. Hamas, but they're both controlled by the same group, and I made that clear. But if you don't understand Hamas and the history of Hamas and how it was formed and how the Israeli government used it strategically, and the fact that this conflict didn't kick off on October 7th, and it's been going on for quite a while, if you have no historical context, you can't claim to want to know the truth. And if you find out that Team Coke or Team Pepsi have committed harms, have committed genocide or war crimes, crimes against humanity, if you find out that that is true, are you willing to condemn it? Is the other question you need to ask yourself. No matter what your religious or political beliefs are. So we'll be talking about that today as well. Principles. Are you willing to stand by your principles? What we see here, but back to this reaction from the chair of the Board of Supervisors. She ultimately called me her mortal enemy. As a Jew, I now know that you're my mortal enemy. Is exactly what she said. In response to my opposition to that resolution supporting the state of Israel, first of all, our county supervisors had no business, supporting that resolution. It was divisive, and she knew it. But what she also didn't say was what kind of Jew she was. Until the last meeting here, well, she admitted that she was a proud Jew and a proud Zionist. She didn't oppose any of the things that I said when I got up and spoke about the influence and the power that AIPAC has over Congress and the ADL has over censorship. and how 2% of the population has, control over major institutions like finance, entertainment, media, banking. To see, if you don't understand any of those things, or you're not willing to look to see if the things that I said are true about the control, that the Jewish influence and control over Congress and their support of both Ukraine and all the money that's going to Israel. If you don't understand the geopolitical and military implications of why Israel is where they are now, and how they have a stranglehold over our military institutions, intelligence institutions, Congress, they own them. They've either been blackmailed, bribed, corrupted, or waiting in line to be. These state senators who, during their one day a week work week, many of them were on all expense paid trips over to Israel because of some of these lobbyist groups. And yet, these evangelical and fundamental Christians who don't understand the difference, can't differentiate between biblical Israel and the nation state of Israel, or between Jews and the various different types of Jews, whether they're Orthodox, Messianic. If you don't understand the difference between religious Jews and political Jews, and many of these Zionists that run our country now, and if you don't understand Zionism and the fact that there's two types, the one that you're presented with generally, for the religious folks, is the return to Zion. It's Israel's right of return. That's the one that you're sold on. Then there's the other side of Zionism, the political side generally, and the side that was founded on, people like Jacob Frank and Frankism. And if you don't understand, the difference between Judaism and Zionism, or the difference between the Torah and the Talmud, none of the things that I say to you are likely to cause an emotional and an irrational response. And I'll tell you the same thing that I told the Board of Supervisors: get his ass hurt. Feel free to get as offended as you want. It's not going to stop me from speaking the truth, regardless of how it makes you feel. Why don't you examine why you feel the way you do? Why don't you go down that rabbit hole? Why? Because you're afraid that it might contradict the things that you've believed all along and found out to be a lie, found out to be wrong. You've been, in many cases, cheering on genocide. Whether it was COVID-19, and went after the people who said no to, the lies and the medicine, or this conflict in the Middle East and why it's being done. If you don't understand these NGOs that are allowing illegals into our country, HIAS, for one, the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, the one that Mayorkas used to be on the board of, Alejandro Mayorkas, the one that they are now looking to impeach for what he's been doing down there, a Jew. If you don't understand, Anthony Blinken, and when this conflict kicked off in the Middle East, he went right over to Benjamin Netanyahu. Anthony Blinken, a Jew, went over to the Middle East and met with Netanyahu and said, I'm not coming to you today as, the Secretary of State. I'm coming to you today as a Jew, as a fellow Jew. So if you don't understand the power and the corruption and the stranglehold that the Zionist lobby, the political Zionist lobby, and Zionism, and the history of Zionism going all the way back, to its origins, then again, you're going to have an emotional and visceral response, and irrational one at that, to the things that I say. Go find out for yourself. Go look for yourself. See, the thing about principles, and it's probably a good time to talk about that now. Principles, if you read any of Covey's books, principles are first things. But beyond, Covey, if you understand that principles are truths that create freedom, and laws, lowercase laws, are lies that create slavery. Let's say, for example, the principle of thermodynamics. We understand how, we can change liquids to gases, and we have refrigeration. Because of that principle, our way of life is, made better. We can refrigerate food and all of that because of that principle. And it's universal. It's unchanging. Many of the laws of physics are principles. They have principles within them as well. So principles are universal, and they're not man-made, and they can't change from one location, geographic location, to another, and they can't based on the political whims of some politicians like Johnson and the clowns in Congress that recently passed a law, an anti-Semitism bill, prohibiting anti-Semitism on college campuses. They can't get anything else done. Can't get issues that have taken decades for them to try to resolve. Can't get anything done. Abortion, immigration, go down the list. But this one, they acted on immediately. They had students protesting. It wasn't, they label them as anti-Israel, pro-Hamas students, linguistics and dialectics, to try to create a false picture of what was really occurring on those campuses, whether it was in Texas, whether it was in New York. Yes, they had saboteurs in there. If you know anything about some of these operations and how they work, yeah, there was some violence in there by design, so they could throw a broad blanket over all of them. What they were there doing was not protesting or picking a side one to there. It was pro-humanity. They were objecting to the genocide that was occurring over there. And they wanted their campuses to divest from Israel. And that's what that BDS movement is for: boycott, divest, and sanction. They wanted their campuses to divest from any investments and purchasing any goods or services from Israel, to sanction them, in essence, like our country does all the time to people that step out of line, the countries that step out of line. That's what that was about. And to see the way the law enforcement reacted, to see the way these governors, that stood on principles of free speech in the past, like Abbott in Texas, all of a sudden this was hate speech. All of a sudden they label this as hate speech. Well, who came up with the definition of anti-Semitism? Well, then the International Holocaust Association, or something to that effect. That's their definition, and basically it's any statement that is critical or provides criticism of Israel or Jews or their power or their influence. And if you look at all the things that they throw in there, basically you cannot criticize the people who own you. Find out who controls you, and that's who you can't criticize. And that's what's happening. This is about that issue, this college campus bill, And all these governors now, and Johnson, the Speaker of the House, who goes to New York and, conflates the Holocaust, burnt babies in ovens, the Holocaust, with the 40 dead babies who were decapitated in this recent conflict.
Anti-Semitism has been growing in America, and it's clear why. Powerful people have refused to condemn it, and some have even peddled it themselves. From university professors to public officials, people in positions of authority have denied the horrific facts of September 11, 2001, the attacks on the United States that happened right here in New York City, and they've attempted to excuse or to ignore the barbaric attack of Hamas in Israel on October 7, 2023, where Israeli women and children were savagely raped and murdered, and infants were cooked in ovens.
Go find out. Find out. Find out the truth. But again, if you're a Republican, and we have to ignore, we have to stick with party lines. It's party over principles. What Johnson did was betrayed both the Constitution and his party because, according to him, he had new information. He was taken into a skiff and given secret information that made him change his mind. No, his chain was pulled, and he was told to toe the line. Just like celebrities are, just like Kanye, just like Elon Musk, when he got out of line, what did he have to do? He had to make a trip to the Holocaust Memorial as penance for the things that he said and implied. This is what happens. The ADL will destroy you. They'll come out, and the media, they'll use their influence in the media, and they'll come out and destroy these celebrities and politicians. Get people to run against them. And that trickles all the way down to the state level and down to the local level as well. And it's not always Jewish power and money. Don't conflate the things that I'm saying here. It's not about all Jews. Not all Jews are on board with this agenda. And as a matter of fact, they're victimized. Again, they don't care how many Jews are persecuted as a result of this rise in anti-Semitism that they create. They create this anti-Semitism sentiment on purpose. And anti-Semitism, if you understand the meaning of the word, is ridiculous. It means anti-language. Semitic is a language, folks. It's a made-up term. And again, it's used to deceive and to stop legitimate criticism, just like the Holocaust is used in Europe. There are laws outlawing denial or questioning the Holocaust at any level. So, slowly but surely, this creep of communism, which is collectivism, which has taken on the current day form of Zionism in our country. And that's what it is. It's collectivism. It's supremacy. Jewish supremacy is what Zionism is. This side of Zionism. Not the one that you've been spoon-fed if you're a fundamental or evangelical Christian. And again, when it comes to principles, there is no wavering. There is no wavering. If you don't stand on your principles, if you say one thing and you do something, your actions are totally contradictory to what you say you believe in. If you say that you believe in Christ's teachings and the things that he said, and you profess to have Christ consciousness, if you understand the things that he said and the fact that he went up against the unholy trinity of religion, money, and government, he was the ultimate iconoclast, which is somebody who goes up against the establishment, and he spoke the truth. Christ represented a way of being in the world. Whether you believe in the historical or the mythical Christ or not is not important. It's what he represented, and he represented a way of being in the world. And he went up against the establishment, the authorities of the time, the unholy trinity. He whipped the money changers. All right? Overturned the table, whipped the money changers because of their usury and their practices in the temple, their depravity in the temple. He went up against the religious authorities of the day. You know, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the Jewish authorities. He went up against the government authorities, the Romans of the time, and he was killed for it. He spoke the truth, and he was killed for it. So, you know, there's the exoteric version of Christianity that most people have been spoon-fed, and I've talked about this before too. And then there's the esoteric, or the Christianity that's reserved for the few, if you seek it. If you understand the literal versus the allegorical aspects of the Bible, then a lot of what I'm saying will make sense to you. But most likely you believe that you're a good person because you go to church. Or I'm a Christian because I go to church. That isn't what makes you a Christian. You know. So again, a lot of these things that I say are likely to spark an emotional reaction. Go and find out the truth. Go and do the research. Go look at the history of Christianity and how it was. Go look at, go look at the ancient religions and the mystery traditions. Because we've been lied to. You've been lied to about the origins of Christianity. You've been lied to about our history. We've been lied to about everything. And I've mentioned that many times too. Just about everything that you have been taught to believe has been a lie. Just about everything. You've been indoctrinated from the day you were little, whether it's your parents, beliefs, or school, been indoctrinated through school, through the indoctrination system. Got a bee buzzing around me. Your worldview, about humanity, and the origins of humanity. Go back and do some research on it. Where did we come from? Some of these existential questions. Why are we here? Why are you here? What are we? People think they identify with this body. This is just a shell to me. It's not the essence of who I am. It's not. I have a personality, and I've talked about this before too, the ego, the essence, and the personality, and who's driving the bus. Is it the essence of who you are? You're that spark of the divine in you, conscience, your ability to discern right and wrong, those principles of understanding objective morality. Is that in your mind all the time? Or do you make excuses and do mental cartwheels and gymnastics to justify why our government goes and puts bases all over the world? And our imperialism and what our soldiers are actually doing over there versus what you're told they're doing. But because you have somebody, a son or a daughter or a family member that's either served or is in the military now, you will make excuses for the things that they are asked to do. And then they'll come back broken because the things that they thought they were going to do doesn't match the reality of what they were asked to do. Same thing with law enforcement, which is why my primary audience, I speak to law enforcement and military, and yes, there are times when I use profanity because I'm speaking to my audience. I was a teacher a lot longer than I was a cop, and I'm still teaching. I'm still planting seeds, just like my garden, planting seeds in your subconscious, because I understand how the human psyche works. But you can't make excuses. You can't serve two masters. You can't serve the truth and serve the lie. You can't serve government and serve God, the ultimate authority. You can't serve man and man's law and serve objective morality of God's law. It's one or the other. You serve God's law. That is the highest law. Natural law. Objective morality. If it's not right for me to do it, it's not right for somebody in a suit sitting in Washington, D.C. to do it either. Or somebody in a uniform. Do no harm. The principles of natural law, the pillars, are the sacred feminine principle of non-aggression, do no harm. And the sacred masculine principle of self-defense, take no shit. I don't get to cause harm to you, just like doctors who take the Hippocratic oath, do no harm. That's the principle upon the oath that they take. Just like when you're in the military and law enforcement, you take an oath to the Constitution. It's the principles on which the Constitution, it's not the piece of paper and the words, it's the principles on which the Constitution was based, on natural law. I'm going to protect your right, our right to defend ourselves, but we don't do that. We're the imperialists. We're the aggressors now. That is the truth. And we're being lied into World War III. That's the point I wanted to get across to the Board of Supervisors and to you too. In the last video, we're being deceived. Our troops are being positioned out there for false flag attack. Just like the false flag attack that occurred on October 7th, the stand down operation that allowed 8 hours or so to expire before Israel posted a response to what was occurring. Don't believe me. I don't care if you believe me or not. Don't believe a damn thing I'm saying. Go and find out for yourself. Do you have the courage to do that? Do you have the courage to find out whether or not you might be wrong? And it might just go totally contrary to the things that you believed in, whether it's your political party or your religious beliefs. There's no savior coming, and if you understand the esoteric meaning behind the things that Christ said, he made that abundantly clear. He didn't want you to worship him. And he would today, if he were to come back, he would reject all the dogmas and doctrines of the religion that was founded on his name. That's the truth. Christ wasn't religious. He didn't form a religion. Go look at the Bible. How many times books have been pulled out. If you don't understand anything about the Council of Nicaea and some of the councils prior to that, where books of the Bible were taken out and rejected and other books put in, and why the Council of Nicaea was formed. Religion was as much a tool of slavery as government. Government is slavery. Government is mind control. Look up, going back to the origins of humanity and learning a little bit about that and history and the fact that we've been lied to about our origins and things of that nature. Go back, and we think we're so damn advanced that time is and progress is linear. If you go back and you look at some of these megalithic structures, you'll see what it had to have taken. We can't even replicate today what it took to build a lot of these structures. Why? Why is that? Ask the why. And the how, obviously. That's how you use the trivium method to seek the truth. I offer solutions in these videos as well. And I've talked to you before about the trivium. Knowledge, grammar, rhetoric. In modern terms, it's knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Modern, parlay, it's input, processing, and output. The grammar part is the input. We are like computers. We're programmable. We are not computers, but we're like them. We are programmable. We are neither evil nor good, but we are programmable. Go back and listen to my other videos about this. And you've been programmed to believe shit that just isn't true, whether it's religious beliefs, whether it's political beliefs. You need to get rid of that programming. And there are ways to do that too. But use the trivium method. You know, the input, where you get your information. Turn off your damn TV, pick up a book, you know, because you're being indoctrinated. Whether you know it or not, your mind is being screwed with every time you turn that TV on. And that flicker rate, that hertz rate, puts you in that alpha state for suggestibility. You know, if you don't know any of these things, you can't put it in the context of what's happening to you and to us as a country, as a nation. If you can't put in context World War II and what happened there with what's happening now in terms of the Holocaust that's occurring in Palestine now and what occurred then, and the context of, you know, the chosen race, you know, or the chosen people, God's chosen people. If you can't see the parallels, if you don't understand history, you won't see the connections when it rhymes, when it comes back. So know the trivium. You know, the last piece, the rhetoric, the output, is the action that you take, what you do with what you know. The middle piece is understanding logical fallacies, weeding out all the inconsistencies and the contradictions, like I talked about, how to understand whether you're being lied to. That's the second part. Input, processing, output. If you have shitty input, if all you're taking is what the government has told you to believe, then the output is going to be exactly what they desire. That's what social engineering is. That's what these master manipulators, you know, the two things that they try to hide from us, the understanding of the human psyche and the understanding of natural law, objective morality. And what they want you to do is make excuses for Team A or Team B, this politician or this one, Operation Warp Speed and Trump. You know, well, because it was Trump, you know, he's playing 5D chess or whatever mental bullshit you want to play with it. Look, he puts on the tiny hat and goes to the wall just like all these other politicians do. If you think he's not bought and paid for by Adelson and these other Jewish billionaires, this guy is as much part of the club as anybody else. You don't believe me or not, I don't care. You're being played. And he's masterful. He's good. He's the MAGA. He's the MAGA. And if you understand anything about Satanism, the Church of Satan, and what a MAGA is, maybe some of these things will start to fall in place for you. We're being led into a global dictatorship. And depopulation has been on the agenda for a long time. COVID-19 just culminated. You know, the framework for COVID-19 and all that's been in place for years. And again, believe me or not, go do the research yourself. This was as much a military operation and an intelligence operation. Operation Warp Speed wasn't just a logistics issue with the military. They've been in charge, and the Pentagon and DOD have been involved in intelligence agencies from the beginning. You know, you have people at the top of that pyramid of that power structure there that have that satanic mind, that egoic mind. I am God. They have more money than they could ever spend in a lifetime. It's about power and control. They have the satanic mind. The ends justifies the means. And if there's too many people on this planet eating up their resources and their riches, well, then it's time to cull the herd. And that's further down on that satanic mindset, the tenets of Satanism that I've described before. You know, eugenicists, the people that, hey, if there's no objective morality, no right or wrong, if there's no objective truth, well, then I get to decide right and wrong. It's social Darwinism, survival of the fittest, the richest, the most powerful. And that's what a lot of people believe. Your worldview's messed up. And it's been by design. You know, stick to your principles. You know, principle of truth, the new hate speech. You know, I get up there in front of the Board of Supervisors and I speak truth. And that's the reason I got the reaction that I did from Supervisor Angus. It was about shutting down my free speech. Just like the college campus issue, just like COVID-19 when Supervisor Bishop locked us out as the chairperson from coming in without masks. This is about stifling our free speech, about having opposition to the narrative, the prevailing narrative and the lies that they were being told. It wasn't that they didn't have enough information at the time. They weren't willing to listen to any information that was in opposition to what they were hearing in their fucking echo chambers. That's what it was. And the money that went along with it. And the power that went along with it. You know, go look at some of these studies on what happens to people that, you know, when they get power. You know, go look at the Stanford prison experiment. Go look at, you know, I've already talked about, you know, the Milgram experiment, you know, the Ash compliance or conformance experiment, why people comply, the bandwagon effect. You know, they understand all this stuff. They understand how the human mind works. They understand your primal fears, and they capitalized on them during COVID, kept you in that state of fear and confusion, made contradictory, ridiculous demands of you. Take it off when you sit down at a restaurant. Put it back on when you go to the bathroom. You know, stand 6 feet apart. And you now know there's no scientific basis for any of this stuff. Yet look at how many people complied. Out of fear and confusion. And when the carrot didn't work, they brought the stick out. When the money didn't work, the enticements, the college scholarships and the lottery tickets and all the other burgers and all the other things that they tried to entice people to take this thing with, didn't work, then they brought the stick out. Then it was coercion. Do this or you're going to lose your job. And they didn't care if you were in the military or not, because they're trying to destroy our military. You know, go read about communism. Go understand, you know, the different terms. It's all collectivism. It's a hydra. It's all different heads, different names, but the same beast. And it's about destroying our freedom. It's collectivism. It's socialism. It's Marxism. But again, if you don't know the true meaning, the original meanings of those terms and where they came from, you're likely to buy off into the wrong version of it and make it sound like it's a good thing. Look at how many kids in our college campuses now think communism is a good thing. You know. Look, folks, again, this is about principles and standing on your principles. You know, truth is being destroyed. It's the first casualty of war, and we are at war. This is as much a spiritual war as it is going to be a kinetic war here soon. And they're using biblical prophecy as the playbook. And they're getting you to cheer it on, hoping that there's going to be a second return of Christ, or, you know. Again, do you have the courage to go and find out the truth yourself? And if you find out that even the things that you thought were true all along, that cognitive dissonance is going to kick in. It's going to prevent you. You'll turn it off. You'll step away from it. You'll make excuses instead of engage in the possibility that you were wrong and you've been lied to all along about just about everything. You have to be willing to go seek the truth on your own. And it's about principles of natural law. And if everybody adhered to and understood the principles of natural law, do no harm, which means I don't get to cause, I'm free to do whatever I want to do as long as I don't cause harm. My speech does not cause harm. It's ridiculous. Hate speech is a made-up piece of shit word. They use these terms, you know, to try to divide us. Whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's religion, whether it's politics. You know, destroy the family. You know, destroy religions. Destroy the principles of religion. You know, religion has some good aspects, some principles contained in them, but it's also filled with a lot of lies and a lot of dogma and a lot of doctrines that have nothing to do with the truth or Christ's message or Muhammad's message. So have the courage to go find out the truth on your own. And if the things that you believe, if Team A is committing harms against others, genocide, whatever the case is, whether it's our own government, or whether it's your own political party, on the left or on the right, if what they're doing violates natural law, moral law, objective morality, that's a principle that you can't make excuses for. A right is a right and a wrong is a wrong. You can't wave a magic wand and turn a wrong into a right. You can't do it. You can't take a right that you don't possess and hand it to government to steal, lie, and kill. Which is why I don't vote. I'm not going to be complicit in it anymore. I know the truth about our government and these parties and what they're doing and the corruption and the masquerading, you know, the criminal corporation masquerading as a government. I see the lies, and I know the truth, and I'm not going to be complicit in it. I'm not going to support it. You know, you need to vet your candidates. If you're going to be part of it, you need to vet your candidates for their character as much as their competency and their credentials. The most important thing is their character, and people don't. And when they violate principles, the things that they said they took an oath on, like the First Amendment, protecting free speech, their job is to interpose, is to protect my rights, my free speech rights. But when you have people up there that shut us out of meetings, who try to get rid of calls to the public or move it to the end to try to dissuade people from coming, and engage in actions like coming after me for my speech, my opposition to her resolution. You know, when they engage in those kind of actions, if you voted for these people, Johnson or Bishop or Angus, now that the mask is dropped and they've been exposed for violating their oaths, the principles of the oaths that they took, if you voted for them, I shouldn't be the only one up there asking for their fucking resignation. But I am, just about every time. But see, you won't do that. It's too uncomfortable to admit that you made a mistake. And you don't want to go against the party, cause division. Have you seen some of these Mojave County Republican debates, quote unquote debates? They're nothing of the kind. There's a couple close fist fights, you know, mixed in there for entertainment, but no, these aren't debates, and I've posted that on Facebook. You know, these aren't debates. Vet these people if you are going to vote, or stay home on Saturday and watch cartoons, because the outcome's going to be the same. Now, there is no way to vote yourself out of tyranny, folks. And the sooner you recognize that, and this charade, this illusion of a democracy that you've been given, this illusion of a choice in the Team A or Team B, until you understand the Hegelian dialectic and how it's used against us, problem, reaction, solution, until you understand those things, you're going to stay trapped in that mental prison. You think you're free. The reality is we're debt slaves. We're slaves to addictions. We're slaves to our minds. You know, if you want to free your mind, you know, go back and watch some of my videos from the beginning. And thank you to those of you that have, and I appreciate the kind words and the compliments. I won't resonate with everyone. I understand that. But, you know, the seeds are starting to sprout. We're starting to see some growth, some movement, you know. We're evolving as a species, and that's what we're supposed to do. That's why we're here. We're supposed to evolve in consciousness, you know. But they want to divide us. They want to divide us from each other, and they want to divide us from God consciousness. They don't want you to know. They want to keep you confused about what God is. They want you to anthropomorphize God, give him human characteristics. So until you're willing to go and seek the truth on your own and find out the truth, you're going to stay trapped. You're going to be in internal conflict and suffering. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are going to be in contradiction, and you're going to suffer. Until you align your thoughts with natural law and understanding of natural law, and don't make exceptions for people to violate it under any circumstances. Understand the difference between, self-defense and who initiates the violence. Who started it? Does that make a difference? Anybody who tells you that it doesn't, the teachers or what, you're both going to the principal's office is fucked up in the head, because you do not initiate violence or harm. Violence is the immoral initiation of force against somebody else. Understand the difference between force and violence. As a cop, I had to, because I taught it. So I think we're going to close now. It's the reason we're up here again is it's Wendy's birthday today, and I can't thank her enough for all the support that she's given me throughout the years, particularly these last several years, where it was very difficult for her initially to accept some of the things I was saying about COVID when it first started. And we're being lied to. Something's wrong. Haven't figured out what quite yet, but something's wrong. We're being lied to. And then slowly I started putting the pieces together, and she was a crime analyst, so she gets this stuff. And she started putting it together as well. In her mind, I didn't tell her how to think. I just put the pieces out there for her. And she did the work on her own. And she came to the same conclusions. And I can't thank her enough for standing by me. When a lot of people probably would have labeled, and it did cause a lot of problems in marriages, in families, between friends. It did. It's time to heal. It's not time to forget, which is what they want to do. They don't want accountability. These politicians and people that were responsible, including doctors and nurses and health departments and pediatricians who get money for shots, and all the people that are complicit, still are complicit in this genocide, this crime against humanity. We still have a ways to go, but there needs to be accountability. And that's why I go up and I talk, and every time I put my name down there, they ask to read what I want to talk about. Every time I put accountability, because there is none in government. But I'm going to hold them accountable to the truth, and it's making quite a few of them uncomfortable. And I don't care. That's not my job, is to make them feel comfortable. Admit you made mistakes. Forgive yourself first, and then maybe the people of Mojave County will forgive you. And then get rid of those that have violated those oaths. There were some that were not complicit in the lies, and there were some that were obviously complicit. So, with that said, I'm going to close, go finish celebrating my wife's birthday. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your time and attention, those spiritual currencies. Peace, freedom, truth.